there's a good baby face that will tell their story in a way that is real, but will have some shades of gray in it. Or, we can connect the dots a little bit. Stone Cold Steve Austin was that. Triple H was not a snobbish blue blood from Greenwich, Connecticut, okay? He grew up in New Hampshire. He liked bodybuilding. And look what he morphed into over time. That's changed. But I think if you can tell the stories that are inspiring, especially for a babyface, more people will care about them. I think for AEW, you'll have a lot of those stories. I think that's why people love Eddie Kingston. That's why I love Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston's real. I know his struggles. He works that into what he is. Eddie Kingston cuts a promo because he's Eddie Kingston, not because he's Eddie Kingston the character. Eddie can pull from all different memories and life experiences and indie experiences and the ups and the downs and the, stuff he's gone through with mental, whatever it may be, and you believe him. Eddie Kingston has never needed a script in his life. It's why it comes across as real. Bryan Danielson is like that. CM Punk has been like that. Punk will repeat stuff because he knows it works. Same thing with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's a genius, but he knows what stuff works. He'll tell the same stories in documentaries. You can go back and find them. But they still click, and it might be telling it to a different audience, and that's okay. It's okay to play the hits sometimes if the hits are hitting. Corey, how much did you know when people came on the bump? I remember an episode the Street Profits were on, and Lashley said something, and they instantly started mean-mugging. Did you know that was going to happen? I know what you're talking about. That was when they were kind of getting, like, Bobby was trying to set them straight. And I think as we have all seen, the heel turn for the Profits and Bobby Lashley went over like a fart in church. It stunk. The Profits are baby faces. They're over. People like Bobby Lashley. So they did all the stuff with Ray and LW. He was trying to keep them in line. They had to wear the suits. I got what they were doing. I thought you know what they were doing? They were selling Bobby. That was good. They were selling Bobby. There was some good memes made of that. There were some good camera stills of that stuff. I like that stuff. That was good. I knew when they were coming on. Some of those were booked a week or two out, maybe more. Sometimes we would be struggling to find a guest, whether to come to Stanford or this person's flight got canceled. They can't do it, or they don't want to do it, or they got pulled onto this. And because the bump down here on the priority level, and yes, that is off screen, that's how low it was, sometimes it wasn't always a strong guest list. I was happy to have people in I knew I didn't have to do a lot of work with. Some people we had on, and you had to pull stories out of them, or pull personality out of them, or they gave short answers. If the Profits were in there, it was a day off. And believe me, I didn't have many tough days working that show. I enjoyed that show, no matter who was on. But if I had Montez and Angelo in there, it was easy. If I had a Kevin Owens in there, easy. Johnny Gargano, Drake Maverick, R-Truth, Drew. Drew appreciated the efforts I put in terms of asking certain questions and looking at certain things. I will tell you the talent always appreciated if I pulled something from their personal life that I saw on their social media. I always kept up on that stuff to find something. Because you know what? If you show that you care, they're going to care. They're going to play more. That goes a long way. And the interview's about them. It's not about me. So at the times when I had to have that guy on my face because someone's ripping me apart or is a heel on so they got to play with us, you did that. Episodes of McIntyre seemed like an easy day too, and it seemed like he didn't mind coming in. I want to start with that as it relates to the pandemic. Let's get into this now because we've talked about all kinds of stuff, and I know you guys want to hear about that. Drew McIntyre was on the third episode of The Bump. So that is late October 2019. I think that's correct. Because the second episode was Devon and the aforementioned story about Hell in a Cell 2019. That was the aftermath of that. And the third episode, because we did the draft with Devon, the second episode, the third one was, I believe, McIntyre. And he was clearly in a spot where it looked like he was moving up in the world. He was a heel, but he was getting away from being buddy-buddy with other heels, all that stuff they did with, like Shane or Elias or Corb, all that random stuff he did. And when Drew came in, I didn't know Drew at all. I hadn't talked to him at all, nothing like that. And from the minute he walked into the building that day until the show started and after, he just wanted to talk about wrestling. It is a trait I have noticed with a lot of top guys and girls. They're always thinking about it. How can I make this better? What can I do? Drew was one of those people, is still one of those people. And I remember connecting with him that day going, man, this guy loves wrestling. Like, he's a huge fan. Like, I could bring up stuff, random stuff, in this weird wrestling, brain, and he would know it, or he'd have a comeback for it. We could go back and forth that way. So when he won the Rumble in 2020, we had him in. Here's a fun fact. Drew was not supposed to be the guest 3 days after or 4 days after he won the Royal Rumble. The booked guest for that show was Edge, coming off his comeback, and I believe was booked a couple of weeks out. On Monday Night Raw, they had Randy take out Edge. And I found out late Sunday into Monday, we don't have Edge anymore. Something's going to happen on Raw. Didn't know what it was. We're going to try and pivot. And we got Drew, and it worked out great. We did the big celebration for him, but it was supposed to be Edge. And if you remember, Randy did the chair thing on Raw, and Edge went on the shelf. And Beth Phoenix was supposed to be the guest on Corey Graves' podcast, which doesn't exist anymore after the Bell. This is when Corey was doing it by himself. He actually shot it in the Bump Studio, and they pulled Beth off the show because they wanted her to sell the Edge situation. So then I got called over by the person who was running podcasts at the time and asked if I could be an emergency fill-in guest. And Corey and I, it was the only time I was on the show, Corey and I broke down the Royal Rumble. And I remember I compared Drew winning in 2020 that year as a star-making moment, which we hadn't had in a while, to Shawn Michaels winning in 1995. And then Edge obviously came back with Orton, and we get into the pandemic. But Drew came on, and we made it a big deal that he won. And it was a big deal that he won. And I think Bubba was on that show. He's coming in to break the show down. And there's a picture of me. I had this idea. I want to just hold up the sign. We had a WrestleMania sign. I was like, I just want to hold this up so Drew could point to it, so he could practice his pointing. And there's a shot of me holding up this press board WrestleMania sign. And he comes in and he points, and we just practiced them. And I love that picture. I love that that was the kind of fun stuff we did. Hey, we know it's goofy that they pointed the sign. Let's lean into that. So Drew came on and has the run he did, and then 2 months later, shuts down.